Hey, my online critic buddies and director Martin Scorsese don't like that movie, The Marvels.
Well, I beg to differ with those critics, buddy. Those haters are not fans of the Marvel flicks, or they're simply pals with Martin Scorsese.
What time is it?
It's Podblast time! That's right, it's Podblast time. Doing a special live YouTube only edition because I just saw the movie The Marvels and I liked it. I liked it a lot. I like it. And so I want to just talk about it as well as the history of Captain Marvel in just a little bit. I saw the 3D version of The Marvels just a little while ago and the Dolby Atmos version of The Marvels. I basically saw it a couple of times. I'll explain in just a minute. Had a little mishap with my background. I'm also going to show you every comic book ever made in the Silver and Bronze Age of the Marvel Comics, featuring the characters of Captain Marvel and Carol Danvers, Miss Marvel. Going to show those in a little bit. You can see some of them in the background, including the very first appearance of Marvel's Captain Marvel when he was a male hero. And then, of course, Carol Danvers came along in 1967 in comic book form for the very first time in a comic book titled Marvel Superheroes issue number 13. And her male counterpart was introduced in issue 12 of that same title. But of course, it's Podblast time. How are you? How you doing, YouTubers out there? This is your weird, informative, and hopefully fun time capsule of memories of days gone by as we forge ahead together in the game of life. I was more of a Monopoly man myself, but that's besides the point. Specifically, we talk about pop culture history and life experiences that we all have in common. That's what this show, The Nostalgic Podblast, is all about. This is the Nostalgia Show with a bite, because it bites. No, I'm just kidding. I hope it doesn't bite. Welcome, I'm Chance Bartels, your host. No relation to Chance the Rapper. We've got a good one for you today, as Steve Harvey says at the beginning of Family Feud. By the way, my little joke about Martin Scorsese is, of course, he's no fan of the Marvel movies. Probably a little bit of penis envy there, if you will, in terms of box office dollar penis envy. Because his latest film, Killers of the Flower Moon, which was a good movie, released way back on October 20th, 2023, had a budget of $200 million, but it only made $120.7 million to date. So that's a multi-million-dollar loss right there. And a dud. Hate to say it, man. But anyway, we're having a fun show. I want to talk about the history. I want to begin with the history of the character of Captain Marvel. And Captain Marvel was published by several comic book companies before it became a Marvel Comics property, pretty much in name only. They were very different characters. Hang on, I'm going to pull up a clip here as I wait for anyone to join who might want to join the discussion. And then I'll talk about the movie. And there'll be a few minor spoilers, nothing major. But the chemistry between the three leads and Samuel L. Jackson and the other actors, like Kamala Khan's, the actors who played her parents and her brother, it was all electric. It was really, really good. And I'll just say right now, I think that the character of Kamala Khan stole the show. She had some really funny one-liners, and I like that actor a lot. And she's 21. She looks like she's 16. She's playing a 16-year-old, I think a sophomore in high school. But she was really, really adorable in this movie. And I thought they all did really fantastic, but let's talk about the history of the character of Captain Marvel. And then I'm going to play some music and I'll show every single cover of every issue of Marvel's Captain Marvel, starting with 1967 and going through the 1980s with the death of Captain Marvel. And then we'll talk about some of the more modern incarnations of the character. But Captain Marvel obviously is the name of several superheroes appearing in comic books published by Marvel Comics, most notably. And most of these versions exist in Marvel's main shared universe known as the Marvel Universe. The current incarnation of the character is Carol Danvers, who was first introduced in Marvel Superheroes issue number 13, which is right there in the background. I'm pointing to it. And that first appeared, that comic book did, on spinner racks and newsstands way back on Tuesday, December 12th, 1967, with a March 1968 cover date. As I've said many times before, and most comic book collectors that might be tuning in know this, the cover date was always 3 months ahead of the actual street date or the date that the comic book was first put on the streets for sale. And think of it like an expiration date for milk for someone in a grocery store. When you see that date of March of 68, you know it's time to remove that book and replace it with a newer edition of that comic book title. So, Carol Danvers in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is portrayed by not only Brie Larson in the movies, but also McKenna Grace. And of course, the character first appeared in 2019 in the movie Captain Marvel, and she was in Avengers Endgame and Shang-Chi, The Legend of the Ten Rings in 2021, and in the Disney Plus television series Ms. Marvel back in 2022. And of course, Brie Larson reprised her role in the new movie The Marvels, which was released in November 2023. So here's the publication history of the character. Captain Marvel, also known as Shazam! And simply The Captain, is a superhero originally published by Fawcett Comics and currently published by DC Comics. Artist C.C. Beck and writer Bill Parker created the character way back in 1939. Captain Marvel first appeared in Whiz Comics issue number 2, cover dated February 1940. My mom had that book. I have a photo. I should have had it for tonight's live show. I'll go live maybe tomorrow for everyone else on my other platforms. And I'll try to find that black and white photo, but mom has a photo of her holding up that comic book, as well as a very early Superman comic book in the single digits. Anyway, my grandma threw them away, just like so many people did. They threw them away or gave them to drives during World War II. Resources were tight, and there was rationing going on during the World War II conflict. And a lot of comic books were destroyed also when there was a controversy thanks to Seduction of the Innocent, which led to congressional hearings and book burnings of comic books pertaining primarily to horror comic books published by EC Comics and the like in the golden age of comic books. But C.C. Beck and Bill Parker created the character of Captain Marvel, or Shazam, in 1939, first appearing in Whiz Comics issue 2. I know I'm repeating myself, published by Fawcett Comics. And he's the alter ego of a character named Billy Batson, a boy who, by speaking the magic word Shazam, which is an acronym of 6 immortal elders: Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, and Mercury. He's transformed into a costumed adult with the powers of superhuman strength, speed, flight, and other abilities. From 1940 to 1953, Fawcett Comics published comic books featuring their popular character Captain Marvel, and thus held the trademark to the name Captain Marvel. Fawcett ceased publishing those comics in 1953 due to a 1951 copyright infringement lawsuit from DC Comics, and their trademark ostensibly lapsed. Taking advantage of the situation, Marvel Comics debuted its version, a brand new version of Captain Marvel, in 1967, and quickly trademarked the name Captain Marvel. Marvel was not the first company to try to capitalize on Fawcett Comic Books' lapsed trademark. In 1966, the small publisher MF Enterprises released a short-lived Captain Marvel series. Due to the title containing its company name, Marvel had convinced MF Enterprises to cease their Captain Marvel series after 5 issues, paying MF a settlement of $4,500. Living large there with that, let me tell you. Following a trial in which DC Comics sued Fawcett Comics for breach of copyright, claiming Fawcett's Captain Marvel was too similar to Superman, the latter stopped publishing Captain Marvel in 1953. I already said that. I scrambled to get this together quickly for anyone out there who saw the movie today, as I did. The Marvels. In the late 1960s, as I said, Marvel gained the trademark Captain Marvel in 1967. In order to retain its trademark, Marvel has published a Captain Marvel title periodically every few years ever since, leading to a number of ongoing series, limited series, and one-shots featuring a range of characters using the Captain Marvel alias, including The Death of Captain Marvel, which was published in January of 1982, a graphic novel that killed the original Marvel version of the character off due to cancer, of all things. A really tragic story by the great Jim Starlin. We'll talk about it later. So, as I said, Marvel's version of Captain Marvel debuted as the lead feature in Marvel Superheroes issue number 12, which was first released to the public on newsstands and comic book spinner racks starting on Tuesday, October 10th, 1967. I'll hold it up for the camera with a December 1967 cover date. Let me make sure this is in frame, folks. I've had this copy since like 1982. I bought this in Marietta, Georgia, when I was a little kid at a place called the Book Nook, which sadly is going out of business. If you're outside of the Atlanta, Georgia area, Book Nook won't mean anything to you. Here, hang on. I'm going to prop this up a little bit so that you can see this entire cover of Marvel Superheroes issue number 12. And as you can see, it's a raw copy. There we go. That's better. It's a raw copy, meaning ungraded. And look at his original costume. And in the new movie, there's a scene with Carol Danvers as the Annihilator. And that costume kind of has that mask. It's got like a fish fin on its head. And it looks like a mask like Robin would wear. You know, similar. It's like a hooded mask. In one particular scene in the new movie, The Marvels, which is in theaters now, as we're live in November 2023. This book, Marvel Superheroes, it was like a springboard to try new characters or a solo attempt at an existing character like Medusa, who was introduced early on in the Fantastic Four. She was given her own shot, and then they, like I said, tried to introduce new characters, and if they sold well these individual copies of Marvel Superheroes, then they got their own title, which is exactly what Captain Marvel got. So I'm going to show you now the cover of the first appearance of Carol Danvers in the very next issue of Captain Marvel, released on December 12th, 1967, with a March 1968 cover date. And I might open it up just to show you some of the panels. Gene Colan was the artist who drew that story. And I really like his artwork. He also worked on Iron Man and Tales of Suspense around this time. And I really like his artwork. It's really, really good stuff. I mean, he kind of was one of those artists that took art to another level beyond a Steve Ditko. I like Steve Ditko, but his artwork was kind of dated, especially when he came back in the 1980s to do Speedball and other things. It just didn't hold up anymore. I mean, it was a 1960s type style, very much so, in terms of Steve Ditko's Amazing Spider-Man issue 1 through 38, and Amazing Fantasy 15, and Strange Tales stories. He was the first artist to draw Doctor Strange, the Marvel's Doctor Strange in Strange Tales issue 110 and beyond. Before he left Marvel entirely, he had a falling out with Stan Lee. And John Romita Sr. took over Amazing Spider-Man starting with issue 39, and you had Jim Steranko and other artists draw Doctor Strange in Strange Tales before Doctor Strange got his own title. He took over the Strange Tales book, and it simply was titled Doctor Strange, starting with issue 169, which would have been issue 169 of Strange Tales. Anyway, I digress. And Strange Tales was an anthology. Well, it was a combo book, but we've talked about it before. So let me just see here. So on camera, you're seeing the first appearance, the first introduced Carol Danvers. She didn't have any superpowers yet. We'll get to that later. The accident that you saw in the first movie released in 2019, in March of 2019, was taken from the comic book, an issue of Captain Marvel. He eventually got his own title based on the sales of these two issues of Marvel superheroes. And then issue 14 of Marvel Superheroes featured Medusa, I believe. No, it was the Amazing Spider-Man. Sorry, Amazing. It was an issue with the Amazing Spider-Man. I have that in my collection as well. But since sales were so strong and the public took to the character of Marvel's Captain Marvel, he got his own book, seen right there on camera for the YouTubers. And that was released to the public on Thursday, February 8th, 1968, with a May 1968 cover date. That cover artwork is by Gene Colan again. Now, I'll give you some background on who this guy is in just a second. The original Captain Marvel, the male Captain Marvel. Let's see here. He's a member of the Kree alien race, and after the Kree's first encounter with humans, Captain Marvel is sent to spy on Earth and decide if Earth is a threat to the Kree Empire. That's spelled Kree, Kree Empire. He adopts the identity of a recently deceased scientist named Walter Lawson, but occasionally dons his Kree military uniform to protect the people he's observing. The first time he does this, people hear him incorrectly pronounce his name as Captain Marvel instead of Marvel, M-A-R-V-E-L-L. His job is made difficult by his jealous commanding officer, Colonel Jan Rogg, his growing affection for humanity, and his fake identity's criminal past. After aiding humanity several times, Marvel is found guilty of treason against the Kree Empire and is sentenced to death by firing squad. Marvel escapes in a stolen rocket, but becomes lost in space. After drifting for 112 days, he is weak and on the verge of madness. He is manipulated by Ronan the Accuser and Kree Minister Zarek into helping them overthrow the Supreme Intelligence. To better help them, Marvel, and we saw some of that in the new movie. We'll talk about it later. To better help them, Marvel is given a new costume and enhanced abilities. After the conspiracy is foiled, Marvel tries to return to Earth. On the way, he is hit by a blast of radiation that traps him into the negative zone. And the negative zone is a universe first seen in the Fantastic Four comic book. The negative zone was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. It's really cool. It's hard to describe. So just wait for it. It'll be in the movies before too long. All sorts of interesting characters like Annihilus came from the negative zone. It was a dark, dark universe in the negative zone. You didn't want to be banished there. That's probably where the Phantom Zone idea came from Superman the movie and Superman 2, 10 years later. 10 to 12 years after the negative zone was introduced into the Fantastic Four comic books. So, it was more like, let me think, 65. Yeah, 12 years. The negative zone predates now hang on. DC people are probably like, you idiot. The Phantom Zone was in the DC comic books long before the negative zone. That's probably the case. I'm a Marvel reader. And I do have some key DC books, but I'm not a DC guy. So, scratch that. I'm sure that the Phantom Zone was in the DC comic books prior to 1965. I'm sure of that. Anyway, or 1964. The Supreme Intelligence enables Marvel to telepathically contact Rick Jones, who was first introduced in the Incredible Hulk issue #1, I might add, in February of 1962 street date. And he was Bruce Banner's buddy. He was the guy that wandered onto the desert when they were conducting a military experiment, the gamma bomb test, which led to Dr. Bruce Banner. David, I was thinking of the TV show, Dr. Bruce Banner being radiated by gamma radiation, becoming the Incredible Hulk. Rick Jones is just some teenager out like goofing off, listening to music in his car radio, playing the harmonica, not realizing that a military test was about to happen. So Bruce Banner wanders into the desert and hurls him into a shelter right as a bomb goes off. Anyway, that's who Rick Jones is. So the Supreme Intelligence enables Marvel to telepathically contact Rick Jones, which he uses to lead Jones to a set of negabands at an abandoned Kree base. When Rick Jones puts on the bands and strikes them together, boom, 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 he trades places with Marvel and is encased in a protective aura in the negative zone. The pair discover that they are able to maintain telepathic contact. Using this method, Marvel can remain in the negative. I'm sorry. Using this method, Marvel can remain in the positive universe for a period of 3 hours. Shortly thereafter, Captain Marvel was given his own series, commencing with Captain Marvel 1. We already talked about that. February 8th, 1968 is when it hit the streets with a May 1968 cover date. These appearances established Captain Marvel, or Marvel, as an alien of the Kree race who had come to Earth as a spy before coming to identify with his human neighbors. The series failed to register with readers and was revamped by writer-artist team Roy Thomas and Gil Kane in issue #17, which was released on July 15th, 1969, with an October 1969 cover date. The character was given a new uniform, designed by Gil Kane and colorist Michelle Robinson, and he also got greater abilities, greater powers. I'm going to find that cover. I have it right here. I got to make sure I don't drop anything. Issue 17. Where are you? Going to be right here. And then something key happens in the very next issue, #18. Let me just get #17. Check out his new. I'm going to show you each and every one of these covers later. There's the revamped Captain Marvel in the new costume. But look, he had the gray hair before they made him a blondie. He had that gray hair. So that's issue 17, originally released to the public on newsstands on July 15th, 1969, with the new costume that you see there. And an added plot feature was the introduction of sidekick Rick Jones. And Jones and Marvel shared molecules, allowing only one to exist in the real world at a time. Thomas stated that the intent of the change was to create a more science fiction oriented update that was reminiscent of the Fawcett Comics original Captain Marvel, Shazam! Who similarly had an alter ego that could not coexist with the superhero. The very next issue, Captain Marvel issue #18, which I'm going to show you in just a second, right here, is where Carol Danvers got her superpowers. That blast we saw in the first movie, Captain Marvel from 2019, and we see the origin flashed back in the new movie, The Marvels. Well, that happened in that comic book, where Carol Danvers gets her cosmic superpowers in that explosion. Now, that book, issue #18, was released on August 12th, 1969, with a November 1969 cover date. So this character's been around a long time, the Marvel incarnation of Captain Marvel and Carol Danvers, and the original Ms. Marvel we'll talk about later. But that first movie was officially released in the United States of America on Friday, March 8th, 2019. And as everybody knows, it was an origin story, a flashback. It was set in the year 1995. So we saw some key elements of Nick Fury and the whole origin story of Carol Danvers. Now, the changes that were made by Gil Kane and Roy Thomas were not successful. And the series in comic book form was published only intermittently from 1969 on, and it was initially canceled with issue number 21 with an August 1970 cover date, which would have been May of 1970 in real time. Though the character appeared in the Kree Skrull War storyline in Avengers issues 89 through 97, with cover dates June 1971 to March 72, also written by Roy Thomas. I have all those issues as well. I'll show you those covers. I'll hold some of them up now. Kind of cool covers. I'll just do it later. I'll show you all of these while I play some music. Let me just see if anyone's in chat asking any questions or wanting to talk about the movie. Let me just see. Nope. This is a bad time to be doing this at 11 at night. It's actually 11:30 at night on the East Coast. So let's see. What do we got here? So yeah, the Kree Skrull War storyline was in Avengers issues 89 through 97, June 71 to March 72 cover dates, also written by Roy Thomas. The Captain Marvel series recommenced with issue number 22 with a cover date of September of 1972, which would have been June of 72 in real time. The plotter and artist Jim Starlin decided to revamp the character with issue number 25 with a March 1973 cover date. That's really significant because I'm going to show you an issue of Iron Man that Jim Starlin also did around this time that introduced Thanos, as well as the Destroyer. And there it is right there. That's a mega key comic book. I know most of you folks know that, that might be tuning in. Now, let me find that issue 25 of Captain Marvel. Oh, here we go. Gonna be up here. I got to be real careful not to damage these books. This is such a cool cover. Look at this. There's number 25. Got some liner notes for you about that book. Just trying not to screw up my collection. Sorry about the glare. I know some of these books have a glare in the background. So Jim Starlin in March of 73 cover date, which would have been December 1972 in real time. Jim Starlin really jump-started the Captain Marvel comic book series for Marvel. Comic book historian Les Daniels noted that, quote, in a brief stint with Marvel, which included work on two characters, Captain Marvel and Adam Warlock, that had previously never quite made their mark, Jim Starlin managed to build a considerable cult following, end quote. After brief encounters with the villain Scorpio and the Hulk, Rick Jones uses Mr. Fantastic's portal into the negative zone to free Mar-Vell, then becomes embroiled in the Kree Skrull War. As a result of the war, Rick Jones is left near death, and Mar-Vell reemerged with Jones to save his life. Mar-Vell's consciousness begins to resurface weeks later as Jones's body becomes unable to house both his own and Mar-Vell's life energy. Photon ray treatments by Professor Savannah stabilizes the situation and brings Mar-Vell's body and consciousness to the surface. After battling the atomic-powered Megaton, Mar-Vell is trapped in the negative zone once again until released by Rick Jones via the Negabands. Mar-Vell aids the Avengers against the Grim Reaper and the Space Phantom, and then Mar-Vell allies himself with Mentor and Eros against Death Worshipper Thanos and his forces in a war for the Cosmic Cube. Seeing the magnitude of the threat, the cosmic entity Kronos aids them by creating Drax the Destroyer. And that's issue number 55 of Iron Man, a different comic book title. Let me see. I don't get this all effed up. Oh, there. That worked pretty well. And Jim Starlin had a cameo in Avengers Endgame. I'm sure most of you know that. But he had a little speaking role in that record-breaking box office film, Avengers Endgame. Let's see. So Drax the Destroyer, whose sole purpose is to kill Thanos. Another cosmic being, Eon, transforms Mar-Vell into the protector of the universe. This provides the hero with new abilities, including cosmic awareness. Thanos gains the cube and uses it to make himself omnipotent. Thanos' spirit leaves his body, and Mar-Vell uses the opportunity to shatter the cube, which was still in Thanos' hand. This undoes Thanos' actions. Captain Mar-Vell teams with Spider-Man to battle the Basilisk and later encounters a new villain named Nitro. While defusing a bomb placed by Nitro, Mar-Vell is exposed to a powerful nerve gas called Compound 13. Mar-Vell collapses due to the exposure, but recovers when given an antidote. The gas, however, would eventually prove to be a carcinogenic and would cause Mar-Vell to develop cancer. During this time, Mar-Vell has an encounter with the living laser. Mar-Vell investigates Nitro's allies, who are revealed to be the Kree Lunatic Legion, leading to a series of protracted battles and the eventual trial of the cosmic entity Uatu, the Watcher, for constant involvement in Earth's affairs. After ending the threat and aiding Uatu the Watcher, Mar-Vell briefly separates from Rick Jones and has an encounter with a space parasite that assumes the form of former lover Una, UNA. Mar-Vell travels to the Kree homeworld of Hala. Hala is how that's spelled. Hala. Hala! Raise the roof. And through a protracted series of events that almost kills Rick Jones, frees himself from the manipulation of the Supreme Intelligence. During this period, Mar-Vell also encounters the cosmic entity, the Stranger. Returning to Earth, Mar-Vell encounters stranded Kree scientists who attempt to revive an inactive Kree sentry located on the SHIELD helicarrier. This proves unsuccessful when the sentry activates but fails to follow direction, going on a rampage. A new villain called the Cheetah attempts to manipulate the sentry, although both are eventually defeated by Mar-Vell. The hero locates the Kree scientists and briefly battles Ronan the Accuser, who was left with the mind of a child after a previous encounter. Rick Jones is visiting Avengers Mansion when the robotic villain, the Super Adaptoid, attacks. During a battle with the Avengers, Rick Jones trades places with Mar-Vell, with the Super Adaptoid eventually mimicking Mar-Vell's negabands. Mar-Vell then brings the Super Adaptoid pseudo-bands together, exiling the robot into the negative zone and freeing Rick Jones. Mar-Vell bids Jones farewell and encounters Mercurio, the 4D man, who tricks Mar-Vell into returning to his home dimension, hoping to coerce the hero into building the Omni-Wave projector. Mar-Vell, however, defeats Mercurio and returns to Earth. Almost done here. It's long, I know, and it's really wordy. Mar-Vell continues to have dealings with the Kree. Preventing scientist Dr. Minerva from killing Rick Jones and battling High Council member Fedor before traveling to Hala, and with the king of the Inhumans, Black Bolt, as his ally, preventing the War of the Three Galaxies by exposing a Skrull infiltrator. After another encounter with Nitro, Mar-Vell briefly attempts to adopt the Walter Lawson identity once again and works at an observatory. The plan is abandoned when forced to become Mar-Vell to stop an energy vampire named Death Grip. After an encounter with the thunder god Thor, Mar-Vell is forced to fight off Drax, the Destroyer, who has been driven insane due to being unable to fulfill his purpose and kill Thanos. Eventually, convincing Drax to aid him, Mar-Vell enters into a war against Isaac, like Sir Isaac Newton or Isaac Hayes, ISAAC, the sentient computer that served Thanos and now directs his forces. After a series of protracted battles, Mar-Vell convinces Isaac's female minion, Elysius, to join him, causing her to fall in love with Mar-Vell. He subsequently defeats Isaac's other pawns, Chaos, and others on Earth. It doesn't matter. Stellarax and Tartarus are the other two. He defeats all of them on Earth. Mar-Vell eventually defeats Isaac by entering the supercomputer's programming and forcing it to experience life. Mar-Vell meets Eon once again and reflects on the events of recent times. Here's where Carol Danvers comes into play. After she got her powers in issue 18 of Captain Marvel, the character went dormant for many years until 1976. There's where she got her powers in 1969. And then, damn, I just dropped it. Damn it. Damn. Here. Stan Lee and artist John Buscema brought Carol Danvers back from the dead in terms of publication dead with Ms. Marvel. Make sure this is in frame. And this spin-off series, Ms. Marvel, the first issue was released to the public on Tuesday, October 5th, 1976. Online sources say it was 1977. That's not true. Hang on, it's out of frame. God bless America. Got a little too high, a little too tall. I see what I did. Shoot. Hang on. Fixing to show you guys some of my comic books I pulled. Hang on, God bless. Come back, you get over here. There we are. Well, that looks good. So there's the 1976 Ms. Marvel issue number 1. And there was a whole lot of stuff that went on in this title. I won't bore you with the details. Most of you know about this title anyway. But that first issue came out Tuesday, October 5th, 1976, but sales remained modest. And the series was published on a bi-monthly basis, every other month, in other words, until it was ultimately canceled in 1979. The continued publication, however, kept the trademark current. This had the effect of requiring DC Comics, which in the meantime licensed the original Fawcett Captain Marvel, the Shazam version for publication, to print its new comics under the trademark Shazam. Comic book historian Don Markstein states, quote, Marvel didn't seem to quite know what to do with him, but they did put his comic out every other month through most of the 1970s, if only to maintain their trademark on his name, unquote. When Captain Marvel was canceled with issue number 62, which was released on Tuesday, February 20th, 1979, with a May 1979 cover date, there were 5 as yet unpublished issues already complete or near complete. The series Marvel Spotlight was revived, which previously had introduced Werewolf by Night and Ghost Rider, the Flaming Skull version. So this was volume 2 of Marvel Spotlight. It started over with issue 1, hence volume 2, issue 1, bringing back the character of Captain Marvel. And although the last issue of the regular Captain Marvel series, issue 62, was released on Tuesday, February 20th, 1979, my sister's birthday, this book, Marvel Spotlight 1, came out not too long after on Tuesday, April 3rd, 1979. And in Marvel Spotlight Volume 2, Captain Marvel was featured in issues 1 through 4 and then in issue 8. And then they had other characters that they had published, including Star-Lord. They brought Star-Lord back, from Guardians of the Galaxy, and he had his own continuing series in magazine form in Marvel Preview, which introduced the character of Star-Lord back in 1977. And they reprinted that, and then they had some all-new stuff with Star-Lord after Captain Marvel issue 4. And then they had other characters as well. They brought Steve Ditko back. He drew some issues of another character, but that's a whole nother story. I know this is really confusing to the layman, but if you're not into comic books, you're probably not watching this anyway. So you're probably picking up what I'm laying down there. So this book, Marvel Spotlight, was revived solely for keeping Captain Marvel in the spotlight to satisfy the copyright requirements to maintain the copyright. So in the 1980s, on January 12th, 1982, with an April 1982 cover date, you had a graphic novel released by Jim Starlin, The Death of Captain Marvel. I have it right here. This is a first print edition of that book. And I want to show it to you on the camera. I don't want to get these books all mixed up because I want to show you all this stuff in just a minute as I play some music and rest my vocal cords. I'll show you all this stuff. Here we go. Yeah, hang on now. Okay, and then we'll talk about the movie. I'll talk about the movie. Oh, please don't fall. Okay. Here's Death of Captain Marvel. It's probably going to be a little bit out of frame. This is a nice big graphic novel. And also I have 2 copies of this. This is one of them. I think it's my better copy. I don't know. Let me just make sure you can see it. Very serious thing. And Marvel was always cutting edge. They killed off a character, a superhero with cancer. That had never been done before. That was really heady stuff from Jim Starlin. Yeah, that's on the camera. There we go. Let me just see. The Death of Captain Marvel. We'll talk about that here. Look at that cover. My God, man. Just it's eerie with the Grim Reaper, with the lifeless body of Mar-Vell. Wow. Yeah. So, as I said, I know I repeat myself, Tuesday, January 12th, 1982 is when that graphic novel hit comic book shops in the USA, with cover art by Jim Starlin. In the story, after a battle in the mystical dark dimension, an encounter with the Hulk, and an adventure on an alien world, Mar-Vell discovers that his past exposure to the compound 13 nerve gas has given him cancer. Compounding the problem are Mar-Vell's negabands, which keep the cancer at bay, but also cause it to resist all known forms of treatment like chemotherapy, and lack of access to the Kree Empire's medical experts, since the Kree consider Mar-Vell a traitor. As Mar-Vell accepts that his life is ending, many of his friends and allies come to Titan to pay their last respects. Even his mortal enemies, the Skrulls, the shapeshifters, who are seen prominently in the new movie, we'll talk about it in a moment, or I'll talk about it in a moment, send an envoy to bestow a medal. I know this because I read it. I can't even read my own notes. The Skrulls send an envoy to bestow a medal, like a medal of honor, on Mar-Vell to honor him as their greatest foe. In his final moments, Mar-Vell experiences a vision in which he meets Thanos once again. Thanos has not come as a foe, but as a guide to show Mar-Vell the path to the afterlife, as a mark of respect to his greatest enemy, giving Mar-Vell an illusion of the final struggle so that he can die, and die fighting rather than just die in bed. As he, Thanos, and Mistress Death pass into a blinding light, Mar-Vell dies. That was really deep stuff, but that's why it's a graphic novel. You could get away with more things in a direct edition of a comic book or a graphic novel to a store than you could on a spinner rack comic book series. It was adult stuff. I mean, it's tragedy. It's up there with Socrates and I mean real tragedy like Norse mythology, Greek mythology. I mean, it's good stuff. Very well written, and the artwork was great too. Following the character's death, Marvel Comics published several comics with new characters taking up the Captain Marvel moniker, thereby maintaining their trademark on the name Captain Marvel. The character returned, although not in a living capacity in storylines in The Silver Surfer, Volume 3, Issue 63 from March of 92 cover date, and Captain Marvel, Volume 5, Number 5 from March 2003. The limited series Captain Marvel Volume 6, Issues 1 through 5 were published between January and June 2008, and they were released as part of the 2008 Secret Invasion storyline and supposedly heralded the return of the character Captain Marvel, although it was eventually revealed that this Mar-Vell was an alien Skrull shapeshifter called Carter. Mar-Vell was one of the featured characters in the 2011 three-issue limited series Chaos War: Dead Avengers. His spirit is later called forth by the Grandmaster as part of the Legion of the Unliving to battle the Avengers. Now, that original character, of course, was created by Stan Lee and artist Gene Colan. First appearing, just a review here, in Marvel Superheroes issue number 12, which is on camera behind me. And he's an alien military officer of the Kree Imperial Militia sent to observe the planet Earth and its developing technology to travel into space. But Mar-Vell eventually wearies of his superior's malicious intent and allies himself with the Earth, and the Kree Empire brands him a traitor. From then on, Mar-Vell fights to protect Earth from all threats. All right, so I don't want to review other versions of the character after the death of Captain Marvel. That same year, 1982, I told you how the graphic novel was released to the public for the first time on January 12th, 1982. Well, later that year, in a book released on Tuesday, August 31st, 1982, with an October 1982 cover date, you had Monica Rambeau introduced as a female Captain Marvel and an African-American Captain Marvel to boot. Here's the direct edition. I have a direct edition and a newsstand edition of that book. And it was Amazing Spider-Man Annual 16. She, of course, is in the new film. And we saw her in WandaVision. That's how she got her powers in the Marvel Cinematic Universe on Disney Plus in the first big streaming series, the first MCU streaming series, WandaVision. So I just want to show you those really quickly. And then she joined the Avengers, as did Carol Danvers. I didn't mention that yet. Carol Danvers joined the Avengers in the late 1970s. As her series Ms. Marvel was winding down and was eventually canceled. By the way, they released in 1993 unpublished issues of Ms. Marvel. There were two unfinished issues that were pretty much completed when Ms. Marvel was canceled in 1979. And what was neat is that in what would have been issue number 23 of Ms. Marvel, it was the second appearance of Sabretooth, who first appeared in Iron Fist issue number 14. Man, I meant to pull that book to show you that one. That's a key comic book. But let me see if I can find that. I'm all over the place here. Let me find that. Ms. Marvel. Issue 24. Yeah, 23 was the last published issue of Ms. Marvel. I said 23. Issue 24 was unpublished until 1993 in this book. I'll show it to you. Marvel Superheroes, Volume 2. I'm sorry, Volume 3. No, this would be Volume 2 or Volume 3. I can't remember. But most people know this book. Hang on, let me see if this is on in frame. I think it is. Because issue 1, they had these specials called Marvel Superheroes Winter Special. Squirrel Girl was introduced in the first edition. Damn, it's a little out of frame. Let me do something real quick. In the first edition of these specials, hang on.
I got to get this right for you.
All right, there's the first appearance of Monica Rambeau from 1982. I want to show you. Here's the first. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but that's the first edition that introduced Squirrel Girl. Squirrel Girl. Now here is where they. This is so weird. They published a 1979 comic book in 1993 with the second appearance of Sabretooth. I'm going to open it up and show you, but look at the cover. I don't like this cover art much. If I dug out that Iron Fist issue 14, the first appearance of Sabretooth, everything would go falling. Damn it. I may go live tomorrow in my Facebook group, The Nostalgic Podblast, but people there don't really care about comic books that much. You know, I figured this would be a YouTube thing because it's specialized. You can search for whatever you're into. There's a lot of comic book people on YouTube. So I don't know. I may do that, may not tomorrow. We'll see. But I will have that book in that version if I do go live again with this content to talk about the movie, The Marvels. That's the point of this live stream, and give you some background on Captain Marvel and Carol Danvers and Monica Rambeau and Kamala Khan, all of the Marvels. And give you some print historical information. So this reprints issue 24, or actually doesn't reprint it. It prints it for the first time. What would have been issue 24 of Ms. Marvel. And then the next edition prints what would have been the 25th issue of Ms. Marvel, had the book not been canceled way back in 1979. But let me just show you what it looked like. And there's all sorts of stories in this thing, this Marvel Superheroes summer special. They'd winter special, summer special, spring special. They did it quarterly every season, if you will. And I think they show the cover. But that really is significant because this was the second appearance of Sabretooth. Here we go. Now, that 25th issue wasn't entirely complete, so they had to have artists come in and finish it. But this one was pretty much complete. Look at this cool cover. So, I ask you, it's a debate. Would you consider that the true second appearance of Sabretooth? I say yes, even though it wasn't published until 1993. If you read the story, it follows Iron Fist 14, the first appearance of the character, perfectly. And I didn't even tell you about the costume change. There was a really sexy outfit that Carol Danvers got starting with issue 20 of Ms. Marvel. They tried to increase circulation of that book. And of course, sex sells, even if it's a damn drawing of something sexy. So they came up with this costume. Dave Cockrum did. And it was very revealing. And it had this little sachet around her hips. And they did a little take on that in the Ms. Marvel streaming show in 2022 on Disney Plus, where you saw like a mean girl in a scene like at the high school gym, like a dance, or I forget if it was a dance or a Halloween party or something. And you see like this mean girl dressed in that, I won't say slutty, but the revealing Ms. Marvel. She's supposed to be a mean high school girl that's mean to Kamala Khan. And I noticed that little sachet. They did a little tribute to that costume. I don't recall if they actually published what would have been issue 25 of Ms. Marvel's cover in this 1993 book, but let me just look because I want to show you. Yeah, they did not. And it's called The Final Battle of Ms. Marvel. Again, written way back in 1979, but the book was canceled. So they finally published it and finished it years later. But the second appearance of Sabretooth was completed. That was all from 1979 right there. So let's see. Now I'm going to show you some comics in just a second. I just wanted to do some history. I'm going to show you, Monica Rambeau, the character introduced in Amazing Spider-Man Annual 16 that I showed on camera a moment ago. She was created by Roger Stern and John Romita Jr., who drew Iron Man and the Amazing Spider-Man and the X-Men in the 80s and late 70s. And of course, he's the son of John Romita Sr., who took over Amazing Spider-Man from Steve Ditko with issue 39 back in the 1960s and 1966. Monica Rambeau is a police lieutenant in the comic books from New Orleans, Louisiana, who possesses the power to transform herself into any form of energy. Her powers were briefly altered so that she cannot transform to energy, but instead can generate a personal force field like Sue Storm, future Sue Richards in the Fantastic Four. Sometime later, the Stranger returned her energy transformed abilities. She is a member of the Avengers, and at one point she served as their leader. She eventually ceded the Captain Marvel name to the original Captain Marvel's son, which Rambeau took the name Photon, using that name for quite some time until the Genus Vel adopted the same name. Genus Vel, Genis, Genus Vel, and Monica discussed this, and Monica decided on the name Pulsar. Rambeau later joined HATE, Hate, which stands for the highest anti-terrorism effort, in the new series titled Next Wave. In this series, created by Warren Ellis and Stuart Immonen, HATE forms a team to fight the bizarre weapons of mass destruction. Members included Monica Rambeau, a man known only as the Captain, Boom Boom, Aaron Stack, and Elsa Bloodstone. She returned to the Avengers using the codename Spectrum. So I'll show you an Avengers cover from 1982. This is shortly after Amazing Spider-Man Annual 16 introduced her. There she is on the cover of the Avengers in 1982. This actually was published in October 1982 with a January 1983 cover date. Now we're going to get to some comics. But the movie, oh my gosh. We already talked about Carol Danvers. Yeah. Let's see here. Okay, let's talk about Kamala Khan. The actress who plays Kamala Khan in the Marvels and in Ms. Marvel on Disney Plus, the actress's name is Iman Vellani, and she was born on September 3rd, 2002. She's 21 years old, and she was born in Pakistan. But here is, I'm going to not read this to you, but I'm going to play it for you. Here's some comic book history of the character of Kamala Khan. And what I really like about this actress, Iman, is that she was a fan of the comic book. If you look at the making of Ms. Marvel on Disney Plus, that's my source. And you see footage of her, like home video footage of her with the comic books as proof. So when she was a little girl, she loved the character. So how cool is it that she can play such an iconic role in the MCU? I think that's really awesome. But let's listen to a little bit of someone else talking about this character, and then I'm going to get these comic books for my show and tell with you that I pulled for tonight. Let's see, where are you, my little friend? Here we go. This is a little bit of the history of Kamala Khan in print.
One of Marvel's younger heroes that's made a big impact in her short history, and that's Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel's actual name is Kamala Khan, and she was created by Sana Amanat, Stephen Wacker, G. Willow Wilson, and Adrian Alfona, and she first appeared in Captain Marvel number 14 in 2013. Kamala is a Muslim Pakistani-American teenager from Jersey City, New Jersey. She grew up in Jersey City after her parents and older brother migrated from Pakistan when she was a little girl. She's often seen as being the odd one out in her family and at school, so one night she tries to prove herself herself by going to a party at the Jersey waterfront, where she's further teased by a few kids and decides to go home. On her way back, she's blanketed in Terrigen mist that was released from a Terrigen bomb built by Maximus the Mad during the war between the Kree Empire led by the Inhumans and the Shi'ar Empire. And while in the mist, she has a vision of Captain America, Iron Man, and Captain Marvel. And while being scolded in her vision, she says that she's wanted to be like Captain Marvel, as she's a beautiful, awesome, butt-kicking, and less complicated hero. And after waking up and emerging from the mist, Kamala realizes she's been transformed into a younger Carol Danvers in her Miss Marvel costume. And it's here that Kamala discovers that she's a polymorph and could change her body into, well, whatever she wants. She would end up using her powers that same night and saving one of the bullies from the Jersey waterfront. She would then go home and be promptly grounded. One day while visiting her friend Bruno at work, she's shot, and Kamala discovers she has a healing factor, and her powers are quickly discovered by her friend Bruno. Going after the shooter, which turns out to be Bruno's brother under the control of the inventor, Kamala uses a swimsuit and domino mask as her hero outfit. She would later upgrade this outfit and swear to protect Jersey City from the inventor, and she would officially take the name Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel would battle various sized robots from the inventor and eventually have the aid of Wolverine and Lockjaw. During the incursions in which alternate dimensions collapsed on each other, a second reality was about to crash into Kamala's. She would begin protecting those in her hometown, hoping that bigger Avengers would have things under control. Her brother would be kidnapped during this event, and Kamala would get help from her idol, Captain Marvel, to rescue her brother from being exposed from the same Terrigen mist that she had. Eventually, they would rescue her brother despite being exposed to a false Terrigen mist. And as the world would be ending, Kamala would reveal her identity to her mother, but she actually already knew that she was Miss Marvel and was extremely proud of her. And it's during the same time that after revealing his feelings, Bruno spent his final moments with Kamala as the world ended. The multiverse would eventually be restored, and Kamala would awaken in the Prime Universe and continue heroing and join the Avengers alongside Nova and Miles Morales' Spider-Man. Kamala would be called into action in Civil War II, obviously siding with Captain Marvel and aiding her, though her devotion would be severely shaken, and she would eventually change sides to protect her friend Miles Morales from a vision of the character Ulysses. After leaving the Avengers at the end of Civil War II, Kamala, Nova, and Spider-Man make their own super team called the Champions, which would be on and off again until their final battle with Roxxon's Asgardian dragon, which would eventually put Kamala in a coma, during which time Kamala would dream about what happened and eventually wake up to Miles at her bedside. Kamala Khan would make several other appearances, including being the main character in the single-player campaign of 2020's Marvel's The Avengers video game, where she would be voiced by Sandra Saad. And Miss Marvel will be getting her own self-titled Disney Plus series in 2022, with Iman Vellani set to play Kamala, and she's even due to reappear in the upcoming Captain Marvel 2, better known as The Marvels, also due to release in late 2022. And I've very briefly covered it, but Miss Marvel has a ton of different abilities which you kind of don't expect her to have, but they're still really, really cool, so let's go ahead and break some of those down. After being exposed to the Terrigen mist, Kamala became an Inhuman, more specifically a polymorph. Her cells manifest mutable properties due to being able to share her mass through time with different versions of herself. So basically, she time travels anytime she uses her powers. With these abilities, Kamala has elongation, in which she can extend her limbs, torso, and neck to great distances, as well as she has the ability of size alteration, meaning she can adjust her height and stature to the size of an action figure all the way to the size of a building. And of course, she has the ability of accelerated healing, but also the ability to alter her appearance, including her hair color and facial features, thanks to her previously mentioned abilities. So those are some of the main things you need to know about Miss Marvel. She's a really, really cool character that I highly recommend checking her out, and I can't wait to see her in the upcoming Disney Plus series, as well as in the Marvels. But if you
So that was from a while ago, but I thought that was a pretty good, well done little synopsis of who she is. I want to play a little bit of the trailer, one of the trailers for the Marvels, and then we'll get into the movie.
Carol Danvers, prodigal child of the Milky Way.
Nick Fury, my favorite one-eyed man of intrigue.
How goes it out there?
You know, cold, no air, space.
Captain Marvel, the Annihilator. You took everything from me. And now I'm returning the favor.
What is happening to me? She's entangled our light-based powers, so we switch places whenever we use them.
Strong theory.
You can absorb light. I can see it. And Kamala...
Who's Kamala?
She can turn light into physical matter, which I have never heard of.
I could totally show you.
No!
She's targeting every planet we call home. I would never choose to bring anybody into this.
You are not the only thing standing between this and the universe.
Oh my god, we're a team.
Higher.
Further. Faster.
Who's that good kid who cooks?
Plenty of kitty cat action in this, but not too much. I think it's just right. There's a lot of comic relief in the film. And I'll play a little interview with, hang on, let me get it set up. With the actress Iman, who plays Kamala Khan. She really does steal the show. Let me get this set up for you really quickly, and then we'll get to the comic books.
I think our show had.
There we go. Now, I want to, this is an interview I'm going to play where she's promoting the streaming show, Ms. Marvel. I just want to say, my good buddy Al was telling me yesterday on the phone, oh, all these critics are just trashing the movie. That's not true. He cited Leonard Maltin, but Leonard Maltin's not a Marvel guy. I remember he gave Superman the movie a favorable review back in the day, but he's not a fan. I only respect the opinions of fellow fans, or I shouldn't say I only respect, but those are the ones that I put most stock into, are fellow fans and people that have seen the streaming shows. Al also talked about somebody on YouTube. I don't think he's a published critic, but he was complaining he drove 11 hours to see this movie, and hey, I'm a Marvel guy, but I didn't like it. Well, that's on you, buddy. If you had to drive 11 hours, I feel bad for you. I don't know what your situation is, but he said he didn't like it. That's fine. Everyone has a right to their opinion. I just want to say, I think that how could you not like this movie? The chemistry was wonderful. If you're a comic book guy or girl, there's a great scene. I'm not going to spoil it, but Kamala is falling in the air, and you see a shot of her T-shirt. She has a cool. This is a minor detail. She's a neat T-shirt with 2 Captain Marvel comic book covers. I know that has nothing to do with. This isn't cinematic greatness. This is a Marvel movie. It's not. Kid ourselves. This isn't Oliver Twist. You know, this is entertainment, and that's what this movie does. It entertains. You probably know the basic plot. There's a misunderstanding. A leader of another world thinks that Carol Danvers intentionally destroyed their leader and destroyed their world and killed the sun, so they live in darkness and they can't breathe their air. And she negatively affected in a moment of malice, their world. And so she's on a mission to get revenge. And she's, of course, mistaken. And there's so much levity, appropriate levity in this film, where Kamala Khan has the audience just cracking up. And by the way, I saw the 3D version, and they made it right. But my local AMC theater, AMC Parkway Point 15, they don't have projectionists like they used to. And there was a big mess up where the first half hour was not in 3D. They didn't put the projection filter to make it 3D on the screen. So I'm like, is it the glasses? Is it my vision? It was blurry throughout all of the trailer previews and the first 15 minutes of the film or so. And it was really distracting. Eventually someone else, I don't want to get up out of my seat and miss anything. Cause I mean, I analyze these movies, being a Marvel guy, collecting Marvel comics since 1982. Since I was like 11 years old or so, 10, 11 years old, I take this very seriously, and I didn't want to get up. So someone else did, thank goodness. And all of a sudden the 3D kicked in. And let me just say, the 3D in this movie is phenomenal. I should have researched. I will before I go live tomorrow, if I do an audio show, I will know the answer to this. I'm not sure if it was filmed specifically in 3D, but it sure as hell looks like it was. A woman directed it, wrote it. It was like pretty much an all-female team. I mean, in terms of the leadership of this film, and they pulled it off great. I sound like a sexist, like a pig. No, I'm not saying that. It sounded very belittling. Oh, these girls really did a great job, man. They really pulled this shit off. That's not my point. That sounded like that was what I was saying. I'm just saying I think it's cool that they all pulled it off. And it's not anti-men, that some films can preach that men are bad, and that's really not what this movie is about. You just root for the heroes. And I've always liked shows that dealt with super women, like Wonder Woman with Linda Carter when I was a little kid, and the Bionic Woman. Here's a British annual. I've shown these on the Podblast before, but you probably didn't see that particular Podblast, so there they are again. But I've always liked shows. I have friends from high school, that are huge sports fans, and they're like, "Oh, I can't watch some superhero woman." I'm like, God, that's such a bad attitude and so antiquated. That's what I liked about Stan Lee, is he really believed in equality between the races, between the sexes. He was a beautiful human being. And man, we miss him, but his artwork lives on and on. But back to the movie, without spoiling anything, I will say there is one post-credits sequence. So during the end credits, of course, not to get up out of your seat. There's just one, and it's pretty important. I'm going to give you a minor spoiler. Actually, it's a pretty big spoiler. So if you don't want to hear this, either mute or find something else to watch on YouTube right now. But they show an X-Man in the end credit sequence. I'm not going to say which one. Maybe I will tomorrow. I want to allow people to see it. My God, the movie hasn't even been out a full day. The preview day was today, Thursday, November 9th, 2023. But the 10th is the official first premiere wide release date in the United States of America for The Marvels. So I don't want to spoil it, but what I like is now that Fox is owned by Disney, they of course control the X-Men, they control the Fantastic Four now. So you're seeing a setup for the Disney take on the X-Men. And as I said in a previous show, there's an anti-tobacco policy. It's a very minor thing. I guess they don't need to show Wolverine smoking a cigar, but in the books, that was one of his character's traits, but I won't go there. I've talked about that a lot lately ad nauseum. It's not a big deal, but I just hope that they make an exception just for their characterization's sake. But there's plenty of thrills. The movie's not terribly long. I think it's 1 hour, 45 minutes long, not including the trailers. So it's a good length. I don't mind a long movie myself, but my buddy Al mentioned that he read an article that stated that the Marvel movies will no longer be in excess of 2 hours, which I don't believe. I think storytelling is storytelling. And thank goodness the writer strike is behind us and the actor strike is behind us. So now we can get some new projects in production. And within a year or so, we'll see some new Marvel action. I'm sure they have a lot of stuff in the can already. And I have to watch the season finale of season 2 of Loki. It might be a series finale. I don't know if they're going to do a season 3 of Loki, but I need to watch that before I go live tomorrow. If I do go live covering this, this is almost like, I hate to say it, a rehearsal, but I wanted to show you the comic books. I'm going to streamline this. I didn't prepare like an entire Podblast. I just wanted to talk about the movie. Oh, I'm forgetting some key points because I didn't write down a review. I'm just going by memory. Oh, and so the 3D didn't work. And then it cut on, half an hour into the show, including the previews. So at the end of the movie, they gave me and others a free pass. The AMC theater did. So they made good on their own screw up. So that's great. And what I did was I went into the Dolby Atmos screening so I could watch just the first half hour of what I had missed when it was blurred. Not missed, but, I couldn't observe it. I couldn't, I look at every 4 corners of that widescreen Panavision CinemaScope screen. I analyzed everything for an Easter egg or, I look for things. And it was hard when it was friggin' blurry. I'm like, is it my glasses? What the hell's going on here? Is my eyes? I can't see. Well, it was come to find, as I said, they don't even have projections anymore. What am I saying? It was just operator error. Let's just say somebody didn't press the right button and then they walked away. from the projector. But that Dolby Atmos, boy, let me tell you, it does make a difference. It's worth those extra bucks to see a Dolby Atmos sound presentation of the Marvels or anything for that matter. Man, I mean, my seat was rumbling. It reminded me, talking about nostalgia, of Sense Around, like Earthquake from Universal, the movie Earthquake. And they had several films like Roller Coaster and Sense Around. And I mean, I was a little kid, but I've studied it. But this to me must have been what that was like, because my seat was rumbling. They have those recliner seats, really nice, at this AMC theater in the Dolby Atmos cinema, and it just blew me away. And I wasn't bored with this movie. There's an interesting scene with a world where a planet where they communicate by singing for the most part, and they have quote unquote bilingual people on this world that can communicate with the spoken word as well as singing. But I really, really liked that little scene. And Carol Danvers is singing with a prince, and it turns out, minor spoiler, she's a princess. And I thought it was kind of cool. So Carol Danvers kind of becomes a Disney princess, if you will. It sounds lame, I know, to a lot of you, but it's not. I didn't think it was. I thought it was a really funny scene, and they sing really well. The guy who plays the prince, hang on, I got his name right here. He does a fantastic job, and they do a little duet song. And Park Seo-joon, he plays Prince Yan. And it's just a nice little scene. It's not like a Thor 4 cringy kind of thing. It's not like in Hawkeye when they had that scene, which I found cringeworthy, where they were performing on Broadway like an Avengers musical, and it's supposed to be a joke. I get it. Where Hawkeye's just, he can't take it. He has to go outside and, to escape how lame that was. So it was a joke. I get it. But then they did it again in the season finale of Hawkeye. I'm like, they're doing that again. But this was done well, this singing world. And I really liked it. I thought it was a cute little moment. And also, my name's Chance Bartel. So my name's Chance. So this is very selfish of me, but towards the beginning of the movie, Kamala Khan is supposedly doing her homework, but she's really drawing a comic book, and she's fantasizing about fighting crime with Captain Marvel. Carol Danvers is Captain Marvel, and she goes, "This is my chance," and it says Chance on the screen. I don't know. I thought that was kind of neat, just because my first name is Chance. And they pick up where it left off at the end of Ms. Marvel. You had that end credit sequence where Carol Danvers winds up literally in the closet of this girl's room, this high school girl, Kamala Khan's bedroom. And it picks up. I mean, obviously it was shot at the same time. It looks the same. The characters look the same, but it picks up where it left off towards the beginning of this movie, The Marvels. And I thought that was flawless. And there's some interesting cameos. I already told you about an X-Man who has a cameo in the end credit scene. And someone else comes back. I mentioned Hawkeye. I'm not going to say who. It was someone in Hawkeye comes back in this movie in a minor way towards the end of the picture. But trying to think what else I wanted to mention that was neat. Well, also in that little singing sequence on that planet where she's trying to warn them that an attack is coming. And so that's the only reason she's doing this. She goes there to warn the prince of an impending attack from the villain, who is a female villain character. And Dar Ben is the character's name. And, she's out for revenge, as I said previously. I need to write this down because I know I'm all over the place. I'm just doing this from memory, and I'm not reading. But the actress was really great who played the villain, I thought. And she looked like someone I know whom I won't mention, whom I've known for years. She has a really good look. I thought the whole movie was shot well, but the 3D is worth the extra bucks, as is the Dolby Atmos. If you had to choose between seeing a Dolby Atmos, do both. Seriously, do both. But if you absolutely had to flip a coin, if you didn't have the money to do both, just in your budget, disposable income, then see the 3D. I would definitely see the 3D, and it was very well done. Didn't hurt my eyes or anything. It was great. So going to get to the comic books in just a moment. I'm trying to think if there's anything else about that movie that I wanted to mention. You have to be there. The crowd loved Kamala Khan's one-liners and her genuine appreciation for Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel, because it just fits reality from what I saw on that documentary on Disney Plus, The Making of Ms. Marvel, where the actress really was a fan of the character, and that comes across as real with the script, where her character is also a big fan of Captain Marvel. So Amon did a great job. She has a great personality, and they, of course, brought back the actors who played her parents and brother in this, and they have some great lines. I like the actress who plays her mother, Ms. Marvel's mom. Let me see, Kamala Khan's mom. What's her name? That actress is really funny in this. I should have known her name. I'm just looking right here. Zenobia Shroff. I'm probably mangling her name, but she was fantastic as the mom. They all did a great job. And one thing I'm not clear on is Nick Fury at the end of Secret Invasion. He was kind of exiled from the government, and I need to go back and rewatch that 6th and final episode. I think there were 6 episodes. It might have been 8. I think it was 6. But I don't understand. I guess he was exonerated because he saved the president's life in Marvel's Secret Invasion. And I guess unless this is in a different point in time, and I might have missed that, he's pretty much fully in charge of Shield. Nick Fury is played by the great Samuel L. Jackson. So I wasn't really confused by that. I just thought, okay, well, this is definitely Earth, our Earth, and not in some alternate universe. But they do show an alternate universe. I don't want to spoil it towards the end of the film. There is, of course, another alternate universe, just briefly, and it makes sense what they did with that in the story. Let me see what else here. Well, I'm going to get to the comic books. I know I had something else I wanted to say that I liked about the new movie without giving anything away. But the music was good, the direction was good, the action was even, the jokes were even. One thing. I don't know if you know this or not, but Valkyrie comes back, whom we first met in Thor 3. And the funny thing about her is she's played by an LA-based actress, so she's totally acting when she does a British accent, and she does it very, very well. But she has a minor cameo role in this movie as well. Valkyrie comes back to give a little assist. And, what can you say? It was good entertainment. Now, I'm going to finally show some comic books, which is what I wanted to do all along, and talk about the movie. So let me pull up a song, and I'm going to show you every Marvel Silver Age and Bronze Age issue of Captain Marvel and Ms. Marvel on camera. Oh, but before I do that, I forgot. I want to play a little bit of Amon talking about her character, Ms. Marvel, just a little bit. Let's listen.
I think our show has a very universal charm in the way it balances fan culture and religion and coming of age and action. So I really do think that we have a very wide audience, and ultimately the show is a love letter to the Marvel fans. So I hope the fandom is kind of comforted by Kamala as a character, and they're encouraged to continue just living in Fantasyland and exploring their passion, because the Marvel fandom is such a wonderful place to be, and it really makes you feel like you belong somewhere, as cheesy as it sounds. But it's true. It's comfort, right? These characters just mean the world to so many people, and this show is really just encouraging and appreciating the amount of work that it takes to be a fan, analyzing trailers frame by frame, breaking down posters, making theory videos, being active on all the Reddit forums. And it's super important work, and it's a lot, 34 projects in. So I'm excited for the fan reaction, and I think young people are definitely going to be able to relate to, the coming of age undertone of it all, and just are kind of comforted by the fact that you don't have to have everything figured out at 16. You shouldn't have everything figured out at 16. You're 16. You should live your life, find passion, explore it, just, hang out with friends, and life will kind of fall into place when it does. And obviously, we're introducing an entirely new diaspora of fans into the MCU. So I think this is going to be a really accessible entry point for new fans who never really saw themselves in a positive light before. And it could be really intimidating joining the Marvel fandom, but there is space for more people, and this is a good place to start.
So that was good. And there are some really good heartfelt moments, and the movie has rewatchability. You know, that's one that I would watch again for sure. I can't say that for every Marvel movie, but I really like the camaraderie between the three leads, the three Marvels. It was well done. Now, I'm going to play just a brief clip of all three of the actresses talking about the movie. That was obviously an interview about Ms. Marvel. And you kind of need to see Ms. Marvel. Not 100%. I would say 25%. You need to have seen the Ms. Marvel streaming show on Disney Plus to fully enjoy the Marvels and to really know what's going on. But if you don't have Disney Plus, it could stand alone without it. But like I said, 25%. I would recommend 25% that you watch Ms. Marvel before you see this movie.
Having that transfer onto this set too, when everyone's like so much more older than me, it was like nice to be heard. And I think
Tiana, we're really old. She loves to be like, oh, you guys are so old. We're like 30. Can you relax? Like,
it was such a
You're old
privilege
too,
working with
sis.
this many millennials.
And this, by the way, is courtesy of Entertainment Weekly.
Concept, like she sees the Avengers, literally Earth's mightiest heroes. You know, Captain Marvel, who's this cosmic lady fighting epic battles in space. Like that's pretty awesome. And she's reading these comics and she's listening to such like grand stories about the heroes, and then she becomes one and she writes her own fan fiction. And so like, yeah, I think for me, it was so much fun to play with that because I was just like living that in real time, like going from Miss Marvel, and then I'm like, oh my God, Brie Larson, Tiana Paris.
I think it's an incredible metaphor with this of learning how to be in a team, and also like the very clear example that like no one person can do it all. Like the world does not become a better place by one person, certainly not one lady. So it's like with that, you need all kinds of skill sets, all kinds of people with different viewpoints and different backgrounds in order to save the world. And so it just makes so much sense. And I think it's so delightful, I think, to see.
Captain Rambo?
Okay, well, I'm going to cut it right there. I just wanted to play a little bit, but I didn't play. Oh, man, I want to play a little bit of Rambo, too. Not Rambo like Sylvester Stallone Rambo. Monica Rambo. Oh, well, here, I'll play a little bit of her in the trail. Shoot, I cut the clip. Now I can't get it back, I don't think. But hang on.
Heroes. It's an old-fashioned notion. But the world can still use them.
Ready.
Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
We destroyed Thanos. But it's not over.
My work is inevitable. There will always be more to finish it.
This is just the beginning. She tore a hole in space. There's a different reality leading into ours.
What are you prepared to do?
I'm invincible.
Your powers only make me stronger.
So you can't be matched. You can't be controlled. I'm asking for one last fight.
You cannot protect your people.
But you can stand tall without standing alone.
They're here. The Marvels, rated PG-13.
Uh-oh.
Monica, you gotta fly.
No.
Black Girl Magic.
In theaters Friday. Get tickets now.
It was good. I'm telling you, if you like these movies, you won't be disappointed. It won't be a Thor 4 moment. I don't know why it's PG-13. It should have been PG because there wasn't really anything that objectionable in it. But hell, I'm not the Motion Picture Association of America. Now, let me see what else I want to pull. for you here, clip-wise. Let's see here. I think I covered enough of the history of the character, maybe more so than I needed to. I'll have to do some editing next time. The history of the character of Captain Marvel in terms of the Marvel Universe. Hang on a second. What was I going to show you real quick? And we'll get to the comic books here in just a moment. Oh, man. All right, we'll just get started with the comic books then. I'm going to show you in order every Captain Marvel comic books, print comic book in the Silver Age era and the Bronze Age era. And I think there's some maybe as guest appearances I didn't pull, but these are most of them. You're going to see all 62 issues of Captain Marvel as I play some music. And you're going to see the key Avengers issues featuring Captain Marvel. Damn it, I forgot to pull some of the great covers of Ms. Marvel when she was, Carol Danvers, that is, when she was a member of the Avengers in 1978 to 1980. But I didn't. But let me now show you some comic books. First appearance of Captain Marvel. First appearance of Carol Danvers. Captain Marvel issue 1. You took my ring, we drifted apart. I have one thing more to say. You're driving me out of my mind. So long the hall we had has turned out its light. I walk the floor and wonder who is sharing your nights. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Now I do. And all around the sound and thoughts ever so deep. It's hard to take this way. I'm always wanting you. Well, I gave you everything from the depths of my heart. I gave you to my ring. We took that apart. I have one thing more to say. You're driving me out of my mind. Though it may be hard to see. If you change your mind, you know this way. If you ever need me. This cover, issue 14, Iron Man. It's hard to take this way. I'm always wanting you. Well, I gave you everything from the depths of my heart. The day you took my ring, we drifted apart. There's one thing left to say. You're driving me out of my mind. Here comes a new costume, issue 17 of Captain Marvel. Carol Danvers gets her powers. Explosion in this issue 18 of Captain Marvel. Here's the first cover appearance of Thanos, Captain Marvel issue 26. On issue 30. Got some Neil Adams covers. God rest his soul. Double-sized issue. cover with Vision going through her. Going to show you my ticket stub to prove that I went to the movie, which I did, of course. There it is. Ticket stub. And then there's the free pass because the 3D was messed up. Talked about that earlier. First 30 minutes, including trailers of the 3D, was messed up. Messed up.
Sit right up and don't be shy, because you will not believe your eyes. She's right here behind the glass. And you're gonna like her, 'cause she's fine. If you look inside another world, you get to talking to a pretty girl. She's everything you dream about. She's a You can say anything you like, but you can't touch the man tonight. She'll give you everything he's worth, but he will cost you $1. You can step outside your little world to get to talk to a pretty girl. She's everything you dream about. She's good and funny, million girl. Wait a million girl. Why would I lie? Now what would I lie? If you really find out you won't have you.
First appearance of Mystique. I like this cover. New costume. Carol Dane versus Ms. Marvel there. Last issue She continued on in the Avengers, including issues drawn by the great John Byrne. And as I talked about earlier, the 24th and 25th issues were produced, but then the comic book series was canceled. And then in 1993, they published the 24th issue of Ms. Marvel in this book. Marvel Superheroes Summer Special, and it was the second appearance of Sabretooth. In case anyone missed that earlier, let me show you the cover. I think that's kind of neat that they eventually did publish this because it is a key story. I mean, Sabretooth is a major character in the Marvel Comics universe. There it is. And then the 25th issue was published in this Marvel Super Special from 1992.
Stick right up and don't be shy. Because you will not believe your eyes. She's right here behind the glass. And you're gonna like her to see if you look inside another world, you get to talking to a pretty girl. See everything you dream about. She's a beauty, girl. She's a beauty. Now what would I like? Now what would I like? You can say anything you like, but you can't touch the virgin knife. She'll give you everything he's worth, but he will cost you a dollar. You can step outside your little world. You get to talk to a pretty girl. See everything you dream about. She's a beauty, million girl. Away the million girl. What would I like? Now what would I like? If you really find out you don't love you, million girl. Away the million girl. What would I like? Now what would I That's why you can talk to the beauty. Only $1. Only $1. That's right.
That's the final issue, 62. 62. Giant size issue of reprints. And more reprints. The Life of Captain Marvel. Heard that a couple of times. I'm sorry to be repetitive on the music, but I wanted to show you those books. I don't know where issue 30 went of Captain Marvel, so I'm going to look for it real quick before I end this video. How long have I gone? Almost 2 hours. I was just so pumped up after seeing that movie, The Marvels, which I really liked. I thought it was good. They did a good job. Not bad for a Phase 5 project. I'm kidding. Let me see here what I can play. Anything else? Nope. Okay. Bear with me. Here's the first appearance of Thanos. I know I showed it earlier. Oh, and this is a cool book. The first time Carol Danvers and Spider-Man were together. Carol Danvers as Ms. Marvel. And check this out. A real phaser from Star Trek. This doesn't need to be here. Hang on. The individual phaser comes out. Hang on, let me get where you can see it. That's a Star Trek phaser gun. I need to take it off of the shelf so I've got to find where that Captain Marvel issue 30 went. Dead blam it. Oh, I didn't show these books yet either. I didn't show the Marvel Spotlight covers. Here they are. Talked about them earlier. One. Issue 2. Up the wall. I don't know what my issue 30 is of Captain Marvel. I saw this cover when I was preparing to go live. It has the controller on the cover, so hang on. Before I sign off, I'm going to find that. What the hell did I do with it? It's slide under here somewhere. Oh, man. This is really aggravating. Let me play more of the interview with the 3 stars of the Marvels while I search so you're not totally bored. And they're talking about the greatness of Samuel L. Jackson.
Madison, I hear you.
Hey, God, folks. I'm going to find that issue. I saw it. I don't know where the heck it went.
My crotch hurts and I missed it. There was a lot of wire work for Monica, but it started. You start that training on your feet, and I had amazing stunt coordinators and Andy and Maria who helped give me the basics that I needed for core and just some of the fight stuff I had to do. They were really, really amazing. So there, and a lot of boxing. I got to do a lot of boxing and footwork, but essentially that was all so that I could go hang on some wires. And that is an entirely different beast than working out in the gym, prepping to even get there. And then the training you do on the mat and in the space with them. They're like, yeah, let's just hang you on the wire just so you can get a feel. And then, but we're going to focus on this other like fighting stuff. And then you get this set and you're hanging on a wire for 14 hours and you're like, I don't have the core and my crotch hurts and I missed it. Oh, it was everything. It was a lot of things. And I'm sure all the BTS pictures is me in the background like this. These 2 are over there. I was hanging on by a thread or by a wire, literally. Yeah. But I pulled it together with a lot of help from our technical team.
The movements aren't like that difficult, but it's doing it for like 12-hour days repetitively. That's like you're using muscles that you didn't even know existed. Yeah, I think I also took training a lot more seriously, especially because Kamala's more advanced. So it was kind of hard dealing with like her choreography because the show hadn't come out yet when we were filming the movie. So all the stunt coordinators were like, so you tell us what you can do. What is your character like? And I was like, oh my God. So we kind of developed a lot of parkour moves for Kamala, and that was just really fun. And I got to train a lot with my stunt double for that. So yeah, I had a lot of fun.
I just feel like I trained smarter this time because I knew before it was like training for Captain Marvel. It was like just being strong was like such a huge part for me because I was going from not being an active person at all to being active, and then was like just growing in terms of what I could do. Now it's like, when you think about it, like if you could fly or even just hover, would you walk? I don't think I would probably just want to move around that way. So it's a way more wire work, which they're both saying it's just a lot harder on the body. You wouldn't think that because you're like, oh, this thing's holding you up, but you're fighting against gravity and wires, and it is uncomfortable and it takes a long time to go to the bathroom.
I didn't mean to interrupt. This is the interview. Here's Iron Fist 14, the first appearance of Sabretooth. I talked about earlier in this YouTube live vid stream, whatever. Oh shit, I was sitting on it. Oh.
That's like a real thing. You're in a plank all day with like this armor on, so you're really top heavy and you have to keep yourself up, and you're doing dialogue and you're doing all this stuff. People don't know unless they're doing it that it's really hard, and so you can be in it for a really long time, and it's hard to have to be your own advocate and go like, this is actually like a plank position that I've been in for 4 hours. So we all had to get very good at communicating with each other as well, because just like in the movie, we're all dealing with our own uncomfortable situations that we're trying to organize together. So it requires a lot of different things. So like snacks, food, drinks, going to the bathroom. It's really, it's a lot. Being in the harness is hard.
Captain Rambo?
Fun in that spacesuit, the one that I switched into with Tiana, like fun in a really bad way. It was like a 20, 30, 40 pound spacesuit I'm wearing, and it was like way too big for me. It was so heavy. And then the scene—
Is that the one I had to wear?
Yeah, but I was like flipped upside down and screaming my dialogue for the entire scene. to Sam Jackson, so already like freaking out, and like all the blood's rushing to my head, and then the weight of the suit is like on my neck and my shoulders, and it was just like the most physically straining day that I had. But like, hey, I'm in a spacesuit with Nick Fury.
I had to fly. That's not a spoiler, right? Is that a spoiler?
No, I'm not questioning for the spoiler. I'm just excited for you to tell the story.
Well, I can only go so far. Then y'all have to jump in.
Okay.
It's fast, okay? And what you don't realize is the harness keeps your legs wide. Like Bree said, you're trying to not look like you're in a freaking harness. Okay, so that's where I go. They take me up and we're in action, full on action, trying to keep the light and all this stuff. And I'm the only one on a wire because I gotta go do some important business, okay? I took off in the frame like this. Ah! Legs did. And they were supposed to
We
be
did not complete the scene.
No, once
We
that
both fell to
happened,
the
the whole
ground.
day was
I
like
fell onto
messed
the
up.
ground. I fell over. I couldn't believe it. It was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen in my life.
But I didn't know. I thought I held it together. So I'm up at the top, swinging in the sky, like to myself, like that wasn't a good one, but no one noticed. I look down, Bree's on the floor in tears. Iman's holding her face. I was like, oh, damn. Okay. I guess everybody did see that.
We just had that on loop. Anytime we needed a good laugh, we could just be like, cue it.
By the end of it, like just to finish the scene, I like was not making eye contact with Bree. Like I was looking like just here.
None of us could look at each other. I was trying to do serious superhero stuff, just not looking at each other.
Hi. We're looking for Kamala Khan.
I've been thinking a lot about space lately, specifically this space out back, and how I can turn it from this into something amazing.
Your first month's rent is just $1. Public
Oh,
storage.
there's an ad. FU ad.
Okay, so our powers are entangled. I can manipulate light energy. And
I could totally show you.
We see it in the trailer when Tiana and Sam come knocking on the Khan's house door. I remember we were doing rehearsal for that scene and Sam hadn't come yet, and I just kept peering over the door waiting for him to come by. And then he did, and immediately, just reflexively, I just hid behind Nia, our director. I like my body just did it by itself, and then Sam made his rounds and like said hi to everyone, and then and Neil like was like struggling to get me in front of her so like Sam could see my face, and he gave me the biggest bear hug, and yeah, I think that was like top 10 greatest hugs of my life.
When your co-star is like her favorites are not you learn. Gonna have to get over that.
That's not true. I have posters of you in my room. Don't even.
I know. He's just like a touchstone that no matter what's going on in the world, that I get to be with him, and we have so much fun playing together. And he works so hard and he works so much that like the time when I get to see him is at work because he loves his job so much. And so I just feel like we get this incredible opportunity to play and catch up and hang out. And I don't know, he's just such a huge part of not just like my life. Well, yeah, a huge part of my life, but also a huge part of how I understand how to be a leader on set is from him. Because he was there through like my first like formative like big jobs. He happened to be there. And so he's an important person, I think, to observe in terms of like how you lead a group of people. Right? I mean, would you agree, both of you? It's like, it's one thing to do your job, and then there's also the other part, which is like there's a lot of people that we work with, and like it's a part of it is being part of that. It's not just the stuff you see that's on camera; it's the stuff that's behind that makes the front of it. And I think he's a great example of that.
His on-set like etiquette is quite admirable, and also like the fact that I didn't expect him to have so much care for his character as he does. Like it was honestly so surprising. Like he remembers continuity from like movies ago. Anything to do with Nick Fury, he's so invested and so like he really takes the time to understand what his character is going through in this moment, because he's like spread across so many different movies and shows, and like I can't even imagine how hard that must have been for him to like be in 3 different things at the same time and like try to understand where his character's at what time, especially when we're filming out of order. But he does it effortlessly.
Shields up!
We're a team.
Oh, no, we're not a team.
We're not a team.
Time and time again, it's proven that not only do these, stories have such a robust fan base, but they sell, and it's quite remarkable. And I think Marvel has always championed that idea of finding this idealized version of yourself through their characters, a version of yourself that can fly in space and stop a train with one hand. And so I think that aspiration to be greater than who you are is such a universal feeling regardless of gender identity. So I really hope people kind of recognize that and find ways to identify with all of our characters. And I think we all go on really, really wonderful journeys individually and as a team. So yeah.
Wow. We should just let him on to answer these questions. I don't understand. It's incredible what you've done. Well, I'm excited for everyone to see these two. I don't know where you can see them on the screen, but that's where they are for me. I'm excited for everyone to see these two because they're incredible. And it's important.
I don't know what. Thank you, Entertainment Weekly. I don't know what I did with that Captain Marvel issue number 30 because I had it out. I saw it right before I went live. I found that issue 30 of my big book. It had slipped inside this giant book. The characters in their universe, Marvel, their characters in their universe. And that Captain Marvel issue 30, I was showing, if you're tuning in late, every cover ever published of Marvel's Captain Marvel from Silver Age to the Bronze Age. Inside this book, I have some pretty cool magazines too. American Cinematographer, the Star Wars issue before Star Wars was released in 1977. Ditto with Superman the movie, which will have its 45th anniversary on December 15th, 2023. These are really, they're big issues, and they're awesome if you want to learn about filmmaking. Before CGI, when they had practical effects and the like, it's really cool. So isn't that funny? That's where that issue 30 went. It fell. I'm glad I thought to look there. So I guess I'm going to wrap. I really recommend the Marvels. I thought it was really good. If you've heard people talk trash about it, I can understand why people will be leery after what we got with Thor 4, which I thought was very uneven to say the least. But this is a very entertaining movie. And it's something I will see again, especially in Dolby Atmos. The 3D was incredible. I loved watching it in 3D. And I just watched the first 30 minutes because I don't know if you were here earlier. My AMC Parkway Point 15 screwed up, but they made good. They didn't turn the filter on the projector for 3D for the first half hour or so. So all the trailers, and there were some movie trailer previews that were in 3D, they were really blurred. I was looking at my glasses like, is it the 3D glasses? Is it my eyes? Am I going blind? What's going on here? But no, it turned out there was an operator error on the projection machine. And it's not like the old days of cinema where you actually had a projectionist sitting there the whole time, changing the reels, the 35 millimeter reels, making sure the changeovers are smooth, where you had those little round cue marks in between the reels. They'll let the projectionists know, give them an alert that in a few seconds there's a real change. So, after the movie, there was another couple at the talking to the manager saying what I just said, that, hey, the 3D was screwed up, and she was giving them a free pass. And I said, that's what I was coming to talk with you about. And so she gave me a free pass as well, but it was free for me to get in the first place, but whatever. But I really like the Marvels. Go see it if you're a Marvel guy or gal. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Don't listen to the haters. When you hear movie reviews, research the critic. Are they a fan of the genre? Are they a fuddy-duddy? Look up their age. They might be too old. They might be, nothing against boomers, but they might be a boomer where they're just a little square, a little outside the norm, like a Leonard Maltin who's old as dirt, but I respect him. You just research the critic. Don't let critics sway your opinion of a movie. Just, judge for yourself. That's what I always do, because I've worked on movies. I've seen how hard people work, the crew, everybody, the background, the foreground, the director. It's hard to create art. It takes long hours, and I hate for some lousy, no good, too big critic to tear down someone's work. I mean, yes, there are movies that are better than others, but it sure takes a hell of a lot of work and a group team effort to produce art. And I'm glad that damn strike is a thing of the past here in November 2023. So now we'll have some new stuff being filmed. All right, well, we'll sign off. I appreciate anyone bearing with me. I know this was a weird stream, but I covered, to reiterate, if you came in late, the history of the comics of Captain Marvel, going back to the very beginning when it was the Captain Marvel Shazam character. Throughout the Marvel history, I showed you every cover of Captain Marvel, Silver Age and Bronze Age Marvel comics. I showed you every cover of the Ms. Marvel Bronze Age comic book series, and some other stuff. I don't have the first appearance of Kamala Khan. I want to add that because that was later on. She was introduced, I think, in 2011 in the comics, and I pretty much collect 1960 to 1993 primarily, with some exceptions. I'm a Marvel guy, but I do have certainly DC and independent comics, as well as some original art and some horror comic books in my collection. But that's my forte, is Marvel. So really enjoyed the movie, and I hope you do as well. I don't think I spoiled it too much. Anyway, I reviewed the movie midway through the stream, and at the 1 hour mark is when I start showing comic books. So have a great night, everybody. Later.